Hi. Everybody thinks guns is the biggest issue. No, guns is not the biggest issue that I think. The biggest issue is how the person feels that has that gun and how the world treats people with mental illness. They treat people with mental illness mostly as criminals. Think about it. If you're suicidal, most likely people will call the cops. And then the cops will make you see a mental health person. Well, if that mental health person thinks you really are going to kill yourself, they lock you up in a hospital. What do you do if you commit a crime? You get locked up in the jail. So they treat people with mental illnesses like criminals. Secondly, it, criminals can't get guns unless they steal it or do it on the market. If you had a mental illness and you've been Baker acted on a hospital for that mental illness and it's on the record, you can't get a gun either. So that's an issue. And if you want to get a life insurance, most likely you can't if you tried to commit suicide and it's on the record. And you can't get certain jobs if you have been suicidal and it's on record, just like criminals. Like if you wanted to be a cop, most likely you won't be able to be a cop, just like a criminal can't be a cop. You wouldn't be able to go to the army with a mental illness, just like if you have a criminal background. They treat people with mental illnesses just like criminals, and that is an issue. And another issue is pills don't solve the problem of a mental illness. It can actually cause you to have more of a mental illness. And the issue with taking pills is it takes 4 to 6 weeks for it to work. Somebody needs to make a pill that helps people with mental illnesses work in the system shorter amount of time. And you want to know why this world is so in chaos? Another reason is because watching the news can cause a mental illness. It can cause you to have anxiety, and it can cause you to have depression, and it can cause you to be paranoid because the news most likely is to inform you, but the news is putting fear in people, I think. And another issue is we don't listen to people too much. We judge them before we listen to them. And why shouldn't somebody not have the right to commit suicide? And that's another issue about suicide. There's so much chaos in this world that most people think it would be better if they commit suicide because of all the chaos in the world and how people don't understand other people's feelings. So people get guns so people listen and to understand them they think better is with the gun. That's why there's so much chaos, because not because of the gun, but guns get people's attention more than anything else. So people think if they go and they shoot people, people would pay attention to them if they don't. And people are lonely, so they think getting a gun would make them more popular or make them better, feel better. So it's not the gun that's the problem. It's about how this world feels about other people with mental illnesses and other people that are different. And it's how the news informs people, but also gives people ideas about how to do stuff. And that is an issue in itself. And I think people with mental illness should not be treated like a criminal. And I think people with mental illness should be able to decide if they want to kill themselves or not. Because killing themselves, maybe that person wants to kill themselves to stop from doing something worse. Like maybe voices are telling them to go murder somebody. Instead of going to murder somebody, they want to kill themselves. Or maybe they want to kill themselves because they don't think anybody cares and they want people to remember them. as or maybe they want people to mourn them by committing suicide. That is the problem with this world. Is, as I keep repeating, it's not the gun, it's how other people treat other people with mental illnesses or other people with the gun. That is how this world you gain control mostly if you have a gun or if you threaten somebody. It's all about control, and it's all about getting people's attention of how you feel. Yes, there's a better way to do it than get a gun, but if nobody's paying attention to the person who doesn't have a gun, and then they go and they shoot somebody and then people pay attention, that's sending the wrong message. You should pay attention before the person goes and shoots somebody or before the action happens. See, that is the issue. We don't pay attention to a person until they go get the gun or until they commit suicide. So the issue here is helping the person before they get to that point. And the news is what's wrong with this world too, because people are bitter and people are depressed, and the news can cause that. And that is why there's so many disorder too, I think, is because of the news. And people don't get out and go outside the comfort zone to learn about somebody else and their issues. If a person is angry or mad and they come to you every day and they're angry or mad, I know we're not counselors, but maybe you should listen to that person, because by them being depressed and talking about depressed things every day, maybe it stops them from going out and shooting somebody. It's the thought process, and it's how the person feels with the gun. That's the issue. At the time they buy the gun or at the time they have the trigger on something. And with that being said, I think people with mental illness should have the same rights as people without them. Now, people with criminals, no, I don't think they should have guns. But if the person with a mental illness has not had a criminal act, then we shouldn't be treated like people that have committed a criminal act. Because a mental illness is not a criminal act, but people think it is. And having a gun is not a criminal act, but people think having a gun is. Anyways, so if somebody's depressed and they come to you with a problem and they say something depressing every day, listen to that person and try to help them to think positive and to turn their life around. And if a person wants to commit suicide, I would not call 911. I would try to talk to that person and try to show them that I care and what's good in their life and that life is worth living. So, yeah, that's what I think. And by the way, I said this before in a video, I have a disability. Does that mean I'm dumb? No. I'm smarter than most people think I am, and I have an opinion and I know things just like everybody else does. Just because it doesn't show in your schoolwork on paper doesn't mean somebody's not smart in the mind. It doesn't mean the person doesn't know what's going around in the world. Anyways, you can disagree or disagree with everything I said. I don't care. I'm just saying the biggest issue is not the gun. It's mental illness and how people treat other people that are different and how we treat people that are not criminals. Bye.